So coming up in class, we have a quiz on the equations of circles and the volume of some 3D shapes. So to start with, we've got our circle equation. So standard form is x minus h squared plus y minus k squared equals r squared. And then this hk point with opposite signs is always going to be our center point. So that's the middle of our circle. And then r is our radius. And keep in mind, you have to take the square root to find the actual radius, or square it to put it back in the equation. So if I'm our graph, given a standard form equation, I'm going to find my center and then use the radius. So in this case, my center is going to be a -2, +2. So I'm going to go to -2, +2 on my graph. Then my radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. So I'm going to go up 4, down 4, right 4, and left 4. Those are the only directions I can count when I'm looking at a graph. I can't count diagonally. And draw a sketch, and there's my circle. For this other example, I have a +1 for my h, and then nothing with my y, so that means my y is 0. And then my radius is the square root of 4, which is 2. So I'm going to go on my graph to 1, 0 and put a point. And then I'm going to go up 2, down 2, right 2, and left 2. And connect to get a really ugly circle. Right, we also have to write the equation, so go backwards. Given the center and the radius, put it in the equation. So that means that I'm going to have the opposite sign. So with my x, I'm going to have a minus. And then with my y, I'm going to have a +2. It's always the opposite sign. And then I'm going to square my radius to get 4. So there's my equation. For this one, I have a 0 with the x, so that means it's just x squared. And then I'm going to have a +3 with my y. And then a square root, it cancels. So that means that I just get 6 for my radius. Right, then we talked about how sometimes your equations for circles are multiplied out, and they are all simplified, combined like terms, everything else, but it's not in that standard form that makes it easy for us to graph. So in order to put it in that standard form, we have to complete the square. Now remember, before we complete the square, we want to make sure that our coefficients in front of my x squared and y squared are 1, in which in this case they are. So then I'm going to rewrite my equation with my x's together, so I've got x squared and 4x. I'm going to go ahead and put the box in there to complete the square. And then I've got y squared and -6y. And go ahead and put the box in there to complete the square. And then I'm going to take this constant and move it to the other side. So I'm going to do that by adding 3. So on this side of my equal sign, I have a 3 plus those same boxes that I put on the left. Because whatever I do to one side, I have to do to the other. Then to figure out what goes inside the box, you have to do b divided by 2. Squared. So for the first step, for my x's, my b is 4. So half of b is 2, and 2 squared is 4. So I'm going to put a 4 in the first box. Then for the y's, my b is -6, and half of -6 is -3, and -3 squared is 9. Remember, your boxes are always going to be positive, because no matter what, when you square something, it's positive. Then I'm going to rewrite my equation. So my left side is going to be x plus or minus the number squared, plus y plus or minus the number squared, equals whatever this side adds up to be. So for the left side, to figure out what goes in your parentheses, you just do half of b. So we're going to take half of 4, which is a +2. Half of -6 is a -3. And then I'm just going to add. So 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 plus 9 is 16. And there's my equation. If I wanted to graph from here, my center would be at -2, +3. And then my radius is the square root of 16, which is 4. And lastly, we looked at volume. So remember, the volume of something, your basic formula for a prism and cylinder is going to be the area of the base, which is that capital B, times the height of your prism. So that's for prism and cylinder. For pyramids and cones, it's similar, but we don't have a full shape, so we're not going to use the same formula because I don't have this full prism. I only have part of it whenever it comes to a point. And so that means I'm going to take 1/3 area of the base times the height. And then for the sphere, it's kind of in its own world, where we have 4/3 pi r cubed. Alright, so for the first one, I've got a cone, so I'm going to use this 1/3 area of the base times the height. And the area of my base is a circle, so that means it's pi r squared. So this formula is going to be 1/3 pi r squared times the height. Now I'm missing this r. Alright, so if I see here I got my right triangle with side lengths 8 and 10, I can take Pythagorean theorem to find that radius. So the radius squared plus 8 squared has to equal 10 squared. So that's r squared plus 64 equals 100. So then r squared equals 36. So r has to be 6. So my radius is 6. And then the height of my cone is going to be this 8 because that height has to make a right angle with the base. So I'm going to use the 6 and the 8 and plug in. So I have 1/3 times pi times the radius 6 squared times the height 8. 6 squared is 36, and 1/3 times 36 is 12. And then 12 times 8 is 96. So the area, or the volume of this cone is 96 pi. We're just reading it in terms of pi. We're not actually plugging pi in, because this is an exact answer. If I plug in pi, it would be rounding. All right, for the second one, I've got a prism. So you pick whatever you want for the base. I'm going to pick this side right here as my base. So the area of my base is, because it's a rectangle, the area is length times width. So my base area is going to be 12 times 3, which is 36. Then to find the volume, I'm going to take the area of the base times the height of my prism, which is 36, times my height, which is 4. And 36 times 4 is 144. And then for the last one over here, this sphere, right, I'm just going to plug in everything. All I need is my radius, which it gives me is 9. So then my volume, we're going to use 4/3 pi r cubed. So we got 4/3 pi times 9 cubed. 9 cubed gives us 729. And then 729 times 4/3 is 972. All I did was multiply all of this except for pi. So then the volume of my sphere is 972